Morning. It is time for Tao of the Day. This is when we get to talk about the Tao Te Ching and get to give you a little insight into yourself, into your life, into how maybe you need to face things today. I am all prepared because I pick a number, not necessarily every day, but I do pick a number. And even before I join the Tao of the Day, I often pick a number, and I know what my meditation is going to be for the day. And so I'm going to go ahead, and this one is really nice, and I'm actually going to be um, facing some things today. I'm planning on giving someone a call today and expressing my feelings of having been hurt, and my feelings of having of just being here, present within my body. I think for a long time, it's been hard for me to feel. People around me haven't been always happy about me having feelings, but I want to be able to address them. I want to be able to just express them. Not that they have to be recognized, not that they have to be accepted, not that they have to be um, cared for or coddled in any way. I just want to be able to accept the feelings that I have. And so today, my Tao, I picked, I believe, has a lot to do with that. And so if you have a number between 1 and 81 you want to pick, definitely join me here on Tao of the Day, and we can go through your Tao for the day, because everybody should have a Tao for the day. I think the Tao has so much wisdom in it, and we can look at it from so many different angles. So if you have a number that you would like to choose, definitely join me. I'm picking number 52. And 52 states, "In the beginning was the Tao. All things issue from it, all things return to it. To find the origin, trace back the manifestation. When you recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free from sorrow. If you close your mind in judgment and traffic with desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging, you aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. This is called practicing eternity." So much of this, like, first off, let me just say that, like, so much of this relates around my recover yourself work. So if you're familiar with what I do, if you're familiar with how I express things, like, I'm seeing this idea of, like, when you recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free from sorrow. And that is a really great little tidbit. So let's start by rereading this whole thing and seeing what it has for us, because that I want to get to. And I also want to recognize that, like, so much of this chapter 52, so if you are just joining me, this is Tao of the Day, and my Tao for today is 52. And so how it starts is, "In the beginning was the Tao. All things issue from it, all things return to it." This is pretty simple, right? All things issue from it, all things return to it. What that references is the Tao is the consciousness, right? All things issue from the consciousness, and all things return to the consciousness. We are born and we are die, and that sort of Russian doll thing, right? Like that beginning and end happens everywhere, right? Like the Tao creates life, but also created the earth, and things issue from it and then will return to the Tao. And on the earth, we issue from the earth and we return to the earth. And so all of this kind of in and out, issue from, return to, is endlessly repeating. Right? And when we have read other Tao chapters, we have seen repeatedly this notion of endless repeating. It is the same thing over and over, from the infinitesimally small to the enormous. these are all things that happen repeatedly. And so, in the beginning, thank you for all the love, guys. I appreciate your attention. If anybody has a number between 1 and 81 and they want to go through the Tao together, definitely come up and we'll pick that one. And I can always come back to 52. But in the beginning was the Tao, all things issue from it, all things return to it. What a wonderful sort of way of looking at things. And no matter how big or small or how insignificant or significant, there is at the core something that is being issued from and something that will return to. And so we want to be able to look at our experiences, right? Either whether it's an emotion, whether it's sadness, it has been issued from something and it will return to something. This isn't permanent. That's the idea of permanence doesn't exist here. Well, the cycle is permanent, but the fact that there is a rising and destroying of everything that arises is just part of the cycle. And that's something that we want to make sure that we keep in mind when we are in our life, so we know that wherever we feel lost or stuck, and I will say, like, the last couple months I've been feeling lost, which is why I'm going to I mentioned earlier I'm going to be making a phone call later and I'm going to be having a conversation, so that I can face some of these things that are within, the process of this issuing from and returning to. Like, I have something and then I will allow it to return to its source. So the next line is to find the origin, trace back the manifestations. So manifestations, right? We talk a lot about manifestations today. It's like, oh, you can manifest this, you can manifest that. Well, what in your life is being manifest right now? What in your life is manifest? Because if you can trace the manifestation back, you can find the origin. Like, the origin may be thought, the origin may be ancestral trauma, the origin may be all sorts of things, right? It could be your meditation practice, it could be your manifestation practice. Like, you want to manifest, like, money, and then you get money. Well, you can trace that back, right? You can trace that back and you can find that the manifestation was traced back to the origin, which was your manifestation practice. But your manifestation practice can be traced back to its origin, which was a sense of lack. But your sense of lack can be traced back. This is all things issue from it, all things return to it, right? So when you find the origin, trace back the manifestations, right? You want to trace back all of the instances of manifestation. So everything gets traced back to a source. When you recognize the children, you find the mother, you will be free of sorrow. This wraps up this issue from return to line really beautifully. When you recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free of sorrow. So the children are the manifestations, the mother is the origin. So to find the origin, trace back the manifestations. When you can recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free from sorrow. The mother being the origin of your separation, the origin of your manifestations. So in the beginning was the Tao, all things issue from it, all things return to it. This is the cycle, issue from, return to find the origin, trace back the manifestation. Every time you face a manifestation, no matter what that is, trace it back. Where did it come from? If you manifested a job, that manifestation came from you attempting to manifest. But the attempting to manifest was risen out of possibly a sense of lack or a sense of whatever, and then that came from maybe a sense of, maybe something that you learned when you were a child, and that came from an experience that you had or a number of experiences you had. And then when you realize that those experiences you had were had under the under the guise of not having a frame of reference, well, then you have this belief that, like, this belief that you hold is a lie, and you can recognize that lie. You can recognize that it has manifested in your life. And it's not just about manifestation, it is about getting to the source. And once you find the source, once you find the mother of the manifestations, you will be free from sorrow, because you recognize that that mother isn't true, that you are bigger than that. If you close your mind to judgments and traffic with desires, your heart will be troubled. So if you close your mind off in judgments, so like if you judge things out in the world and traffic with desires, and traffic just in this, like I want to, because this is one that I had to look up at one point. What traffic is, like moving things, right? Like you traffic drugs, you traffic all of these different things. You traffic by engaging. I'm going to pull it up really quick, because it's like traffic is an interesting term here. Um, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because traffic isn't being used here as, so it could be used as words, but it's engage or deal in, right? So if you close your mind if you close your mind off to judgments and engage with desires, your heart will be troubled. So that's what this sentence means, right? If you close your mind off due to judgments and engage with your desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging and are not led by your senses, because desires are senses, right? Like I desire to have a relationship, or I desire to lose weight, or I desire to have this thing happen to me, your heart will find peace. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will be at peace. Your heart will find peace. So once again, if we are stuck in a cycle, all things issue from it, the Tao. So in the beginning was the Tao, all things issued from it, all things returned to it. To find the origin, trace back the manifestation, because that's in a cycle. When you trace back the multiple manifestations that brought you to this point, you will find the mother. And in finding the mother, you will be free from sorrow. So once you get back to the source, you will be free from sorrow, because the sorrow came through assumption. The sorrow came through manifestation. The sorrow came through the feeling of separateness from the Tao. And once you understand that all things issue from it, so you issued from the Tao and you will return to the Tao, you will be able to free yourself from sorrow. If you close your mind in judgments and traffic with desires, we address that, your heart will be troubled. But if you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace. Well, that's very difficult today, right? Like the concept of not being led by your senses when everything around us is giving us like is coaxing us to be led by our senses. That's something that we have to be able to face. That's something that we have to be able to look at, because if we are constantly trafficking in desire, or engaging in desire, we will not find peace. Our hearts will never unclench, as it says somewhere else in the Tao. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Being in that space of the unknown, because darkness is all around us. The unknown is what's in front of us. Seeing into that is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. I love yielding. Yield to something within you. Yield to something that is within you. You don't have to force things to happen. Things happen anyway. And if you can yield to that, if you can yield to what is, then you are stronger than anyone who is trying to force things to happen. Use your own light and return to the source of light. Your light stems from the Tao. Your light stems from the source. And so use that which is within you. And you will be part of the cycle. You will be able to, things will issue from you and things will return to you. To find the origin, we trace back the manifestations. We are the manifestation of something else, the Tao. We are the manifestation. We are the desire of those around us. This is called practicing eternity. That's how this ends. This is called practicing eternity. What a beautiful way of looking at it. This is called practicing eternity. Eternity exists by things being issued from and returning to. Eternity exists by from the origin manifestations are built, and those manifestations build manifestations build manifestations. When you recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free from sorrow. And that's the thing. There's so much toxic positivity out there. People just saying, I have control of how I feel. Well, maybe you are enlightened to the degree that you understand all of this and like you are clear and feel good about yourself. But really, if you're just denying how you feel because you are wrapped up in positivity, and I'm supposed to think positive so I can control how I feel, well, you're dismissing something that's very, very important. You're dismissing the cycle of eternity. And I think the more that we say I'm going to stay positive without recognizing the pain, without recognizing the lows, without recognizing the cycle, then we're not practicing eternity. Yes, use your own light and return to the source of light. Yes, that is the goal. But here on earth, I maybe that's possible. Maybe it's possible to use your own light and return to the source of light. But I think facing the truth and facing yourself and facing all that you are within the cycle, like understand that if you're done with the cycles, then what left is there? Right, like I like to tell people who love the manifestation coaches and stuff, right? Like if you can manifest everything and anything you want, the fuck do you want? You want nothing because you recognize that this is all it's just a manifestation. And so trying to be like I mean I've seen people like I haven't heard like I forget the guy who puts out Dudley, like not Dudley, Dooley. I don't know, like, yeah, there's a manifestation coach out there. He puts out the notes from the universe and stuff. Love the guy, but I remember him being like, "Is it possible for me to manifest like a Mercedes Benz right here in front of me right now?" And I would say, "Well, yes, but if you could do that, don't you think you would work on something else? Like, what? Why are you like worried about getting your Mercedes if you can do this, right? Like how petty is your life that like you're worried about getting a Mercedes right now, when like the reality is like you have access to the entire universe. I wouldn't imagine that if you have access to the entire universe, you're gonna ask for a Mercedes. Like my guess is you would ask for nothing. Because if you have access to the entire universe, you would see its perfection. You would see your perfection. And that everything is perfect, even your sadness. Everything is perfect, even your jealousy. Now, is it perfect to have every day and to move forward without questioning it? No, like it's there to be observed. It's there for you to embrace. It's there for you to have in front of you. Yes, return to your light, as it says here. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace. Yes, seeing into the darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. Use your own light and return to the source of light. Yes, those things are possible, but those things are possible in the cycle. You can only return to your light as it has been issued. And then once you do use your own light, it gets to return to you. And then it is issued again and returns to you in a new way. Every step, you are just moving up the ladder. You are moving up and you are moving closer to your openness. This is called practicing eternity. Do you think that if you reached the state of, you know, godly bliss and understanding that you would still be alive? Don't you think you would surpass that? Like, if you have reached this place where you can manifest everything in the universe, I can't imagine you would want to manifest anything because you would see the glory and the beauty in all that is. and to face that. Like I said today, I'm going to be making a phone call to somebody who I had an experience with, and I want to have my feelings. I think one part of me, was like a part of me wasn't willing to address the fact that I have feelings and that I'm been hurt. But you know what? I was, and it's not bad. And I'm just going to face it, and I'm just going to let that person know, hey, I'm hurt. It's not your fault. It's not you, but this is part of it, because this is part of me accepting the fact that I'm hurt. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to express that, and that I really want to believe in my feelings. I think this piece is talking to that. It's like seeing into the darkness is clarity. I don't know exactly what this is going to do, but I definitely have to face myself here. I have to use my own light, and I have to return to the source of light. And the source of light is me. So this is how my heart will find peace. And in that way, I'll be able to practice eternity. I will be able to practice this cycle. I'll be able to practice being in this space of constantly renewing and rejuvenating and re-engaging in all that I am, because that is who I am. That was 52. Thank you guys so much for all your love during this. I appreciate you guys listening. If you have a number between 1 and 81 you want to pick, definitely chime in now, because if nobody chimes in, I'm not going to sit around and beg. So if you're listening and you want to pick a number between 1 and 81 and talk a little bit about the Tao, I would love to. You don't have to know anything about the Tao. You're going to pick a number. We're going to read a chapter, which usually they're pretty short. There are a couple longer ones in here, but they're not extremely long. There's a 15-minute timer on, so you and I would talk for about 15 minutes. We'll read through it, get your initial reaction, and then go through it line by line or section by section, whichever is most suited for the piece that you pick. I would love to talk with you. My name is Martin John. I am the recovery mentor. So much of what I talk about revolves around recovery, recovery from drugs and alcohol, but also recovery from all things. I like to look at recovery as something we recover to, right? There is this initial state of recovery that we have to engage in, which is recovering from. That's usually when we are living under the influence of something pretty heavily, to the point that we can't imagine our lives without it. But we are all living under the influence of something. Let's be honest. We were born and we lived under the influence of our parents. We lived under the influence of our teachers and parents and religions and peers, and then our partners and our bosses and everybody that wants to have a say in our life. Sometimes we've given up a little bit of ourselves so we can do that. And one thing that I gave up is of myself, and living under the influence of my parents and living under the influence of all of these other things, is the idea that I shouldn't share my feelings. It's silly. And that's what I'm going to face today. I'm going to face that once again in my life. I don't know that I've faced it in this way before. I've always been afraid of being seen as silly or frivolous, especially because I feel that my feelings can be seen as frivolous. But they're not. They're intense, and I feel them. And I'm not frivolous because I feel them. And I want to face that. And so this is how I recover to who I am. I start to leave behind that which I am living under the influence of, and I start to understand that I'm recovering to who I am, and I understand who I am all the time. So that's what I want to step into. If you have a number between 1 and 81 you want to choose, why don't you join me? Pick a number. We'll read through one of these Tao chapters. Once again, I'm Martin John, the recovery mentor. I host the Recover Yourself podcast. I have workshops coming up throughout February, a Recover Yourself workshop to help you understand where you are maybe living under the influence of other things, or are trying to figure out who you are. So please join me every morning, Monday through Friday. So weekdays, every weekday morning, I jump on the Wisdom app here and I share the Tao. The Tao is an ancient text written about 600 BC, and it is such a beautiful way of like reasoning the world and engaging with the things around us. So if you have a number between 1 and 81 you want to choose, I would love to have you join me. I am here to talk to you about the Tao Te Ching. If nobody wants to join, I will sign out. Thank you so much. If you are here and want to join, give me a shout right away because I'm going to be signing out shortly. My name again, Martin John, recovery mentor. I host a Recover Yourself podcast, and love you guys so much. Join me next week for any Tao of the day that you can. Otherwise, until next time, keep recovering yourself.